Welcome to episode 3 of the Reptile Chronicles podcast with me, Ken from Viv Visions. And so without further ado, let's bring in today's guest. So today we have Ben from ReptiChat, and we're just going to talk about going from snake keeping to monitor keeping and all that sort of jazz. So without further ado, let's bring him in and let's start from here. Thank you very much. Hello.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you.
Good. So, for the listeners, can you please, they probably surely know who you are by now, but if you could just give a brief introduction on who you are and what you do.
So my name is Ben. I used to be known as Ben's Balls on Instagram. I'm now ReptiChat. Do you want like a full history or just a brief rundown for now?
Hey, crack on. Yeah, of course. Yeah, crack on.
Okay, so it's quite nice being on this side of the camera. So I started keeping reptiles when I was probably 12 or 13 years old. I can't remember exactly. My first reptile was a leopard gecko, which I got online. It came in the post. I can't remember how much it was, what its name was, or anything really, just that I had a leopard gecko. It was kept in a 3-foot viv from a hatchling. It had a red bulb, it had calci sand, all that good stuff. And the bug started there, really. So I had the leopard gecko for 2 months, and then I decided I wanted a snake. So straight onto, I think it was a Friday ad at the time, and I picked up a male Western hognose with a viv for £30.
Nice.
I didn't know anything about hognose at all. I didn't know they were rear fang venomous. I didn't know they were rear fang venomous until probably 5 years into owning the snake. There wasn't much information at the time. I was keeping it as I would keep a corn snake. And then from there, I had all sorts. I've had, I sort of kept a lot. And then when I moved out from my parents' house, I sold everything and I got back into it pre-COVID, like 2018. But in my entire, I sort of had, when I was staying at my parents' house, I've had leopard geckos, hognose, corn snakes, royal pythons, water dragons, rainbow boas, beardies.
Nice.
And then, so I sold those all when I was, I think, about 18. And then I started keeping again in 2018, I think it was, might have been 2017, with my wife. So we started off with a milk snake named Delilah. We had a couple of corn snakes, just bits and bobs. We weren't really like keeping. And then mid to end of 2018, I started keeping tarantulas. I went from having one to having like 60 very, very quickly, which was sick. I don't have any anymore because they were in the shed. I couldn't keep the temperature stable enough in the summer. It was too hot and it was too cold in the winter. And then early 2019, I got back into royals. Was keeping and breeding, as I'm sure most people are aware. And then October last year, so 2023, I made a decision that after many years of keeping royals and keeping them in racks and stuff, that was it. I'd had enough. So all the snakes went, the racks went, and now I am starting a whole new reptile journey I've started with some dwarf monitors.
Nice.
So that pretty much brings us up to where we are today, I guess.
Yes. Brilliant. So talking of, so you've gone from keeping in racks and moving into, keeping monitors. How do you find it?
Honestly, it's like a whole different world. I feel like I have no knowledge of anything. I feel like I'm starting from scratch completely. Like even before I kept the monitors, like I was mainly a snake person. Like I had a few leopard geckos. We've still got leopard geckos here now, but I deem myself a snake person. So like you could say, "Oh, Ben, here's a berm," and I would go, "Right, I know what to do. I need to set up. I know how it works. I had to feed it. I know what sort of behaviours to look for." The monitors is a whole new game. Like I had, luckily, obviously, we both know Paul, and he has basically, whether he liked it or not, mentored me through the whole process. Not so much now, but when I first made the decision, like every hour or so, I was like, Paul, should I feed it? Paul, it looked at me funny. The temperature's this, the temperature's that. So yeah, it's mad. Like I'm absolutely infatuated with the monitors, to be honest. Like I've got reptiles in every room in the house except the bathroom, but like my main reptile, so to speak, because my wife has some, my daughter has some. Mine are in the kitchen. I spend a lot of time in the kitchen. Like I get home from work, I'm straight in the kitchen cooking dinner, sitting and just staring at the lizards.
Mm.
When I had the snakes, I would sit and stare sort of at the front of the tubs and just see the snakes moving around the front of the tubs. And yeah, that was pretty much what made me decide to get rid of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
And now I'm watching the monitors, and I've deliberately built the Vivs much. They're much bigger than the like recommended minimum size. So like McGill and I are in a just under 4 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot. So like, and at the moment they're 7 inches long, so they're tiny.
Yeah.
And then the Akis as well, they're in a 5 by 3 by 3, and again they're tiny as well. So they're all in like paradise at the moment.
Yeah.
I can stand and watch them, and they're like running around. They do this little tail wagging scent marking thing. They honestly, I absolutely love it. I could sit and watch. In fact, I do regularly sit for hours and just watch them. And then when the lights go off, the morning geckos are also in that same sort of bank. So the morning geckos start coming out and chirping, and yeah, man, it's awesome. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Talking about like, you know, closure sizes and stuff like that. So at the moment, I keep on eyes all the time. So I got these in an 8 by 3 by 3. Moving him up to soon, I'm going to be ordering 11 by 4 by 3.
Blimey, that's like a room. In fact, that's probably bigger than some of the rooms in my house.
Yeah, so it spans the whole reptile room. So it'd be 11 by 4 by 3.
Yeah. Nice.
Because at the moment, I was going to do the summer house, and then at the moment, because obviously circumstances change. So
yeah, things change all the time, don't
so he's out now, and I missed the time of recording is 7:30 in the evening, so it's very rare sighting actually. But so going like it's nice to see animals and big Vivs.
Yeah, definitely. It's going from keeping like 3-4 kilo royals in a 33 litre tub to keeping a lizard that's currently just smaller than an adult leopard gecko in a mansion. It's ridiculous, and I absolutely love it. I'm so there for it now.
Yeah. So going back to like you said, you kept tarantulas and stuff like that. So what sort of species did you keep?
I kept a lot of New World stuff. I wasn't very brave for that. I think, to be fair, my tarantula knowledge is lapsed at the moment, but I think lots of New World, so like South American species. Yeah. So mostly that, like the old world stuff scares me. It's just too fast, too bitey. I did have a few, like I had a couple of sling P metallicas and things like that.
Nice.
Lots of I had lots of Venezuelan sun tigers. I love a Venezuelan sun tiger, which is a something Armenia. I can't remember off the top of my head. Pink toes, Caribbean versicolors. I had loads of those. I love a Caribbean versicolor. Chili rose. That's pretty it. And then a few like regal jumping spiders, things like that.
Yeah.
And then a couple of praying mantises, a few scorpions, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So at the moment we've got an OBT, which I never see the light of.
Yeah, you can keep that. I don't like them. They're horrible.
I got a Lasiodora paribana, salmon pink predator, and recently acquired the Ferrofrososturmi.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a monster. I think she's just about to molt because you're webbing up her hide.
Yeah, that's cool. She's a big spider, the one you've got as well.
Yeah, and she likes to charge a lot.
Yeah, I don't like them. I like before I ever kept spiders, my best mate, who was my best man at my wedding, Tom, he doesn't keep anything anymore. But when we were growing up, so we were like 15, 16, 17, I was reptiles and he had not snakes, he had inverts. Like he had a few corn snakes and stuff, but spiders were his thing, and he had a few sturmies, and they scare me, man. Like I remember the first one that he bought, he paid 120 quid for it, and it was a mature male. This was mad, and it came in the post. He paid by Western Union, and it turned up in this deli cup that was like hardly big enough for this thing to move around. We put it straight into a plastic vornarium because that's what they were all kept in at the time, and it was flicking hairs and it was hissing.
Yeah.
And, he fed it a pinky, which was its first meal, and honestly, seeing a spider eat a pinky, I was like, "No, that's it. You can keep that." Scary, man.
I haven't tried rodents yet with the Sturmy. Maybe after she's molted, I might try. I'm not entirely.
He used to feed it a lot. He used to feed it sun beetles a lot. You know, those like black and yellow beetles. And I used to like basically live at his house. So like we're both in the same bedroom, so, having a sleepover as you do when you're that age. And we'd feed it, and then at night you're trying to go to sleep, and all you can hear is this spider crunching through a beetle. It's like I didn't even know they were capable of crunching stuff like that, and it's noisy, but yeah, it's cool.
Wait, how old were you when you kept those spiders?
So
Like,
this was my mate, but he was like 15, 16, so I'm 31 now.
Yeah, that's some massive stones on that kid, right?
Yeah, definitely. But to be fair, I don't know if it was like big stones or if he was just stupid, but either way.
Yeah. Okay. So so yeah, going from like, talk about royals. So how many royals did you have in your collection at one point?
So the most royals I kept at one time was about, I think with hatchlings was like 60 something. So I had 42 adults at
Crikey.
like my peak. But yeah, royals had a big place in my heart for a very long time. So I started keeping royals when I was 14, I want to say. Bred
Yeah.
my first ever animal that I bred was a royal. So I bred those for the first time successfully when I was 17, but I'd been trying to breed since I was 14.
Yeah.
And the first 2 clutches I got eggs, but the incubators I had were awful. They didn't work. And so both clutches died. Like the first clutch, they didn't make it at all. The second clutch, they all came out, but they were all really, really kinked, so they all had to be put to sleep. But the third clutch, I got there eventually, and like I produced bumblebees, which was sick. Like at the time, they were the ones. Like there wasn't much going around. It was pieds, albinos, bumblebees. They were the cool things to have.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I bred those for a few years. I can't remember exactly, and then got back into it. Like I said, 2017, 2018, and when I never planned on breeding again. My friend called me and was like, he's got a royal. His son hates it. He's terrified. He won't go in the house. So he said, "Do I want it?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll have it." So one royal turned up. Hadn't really thought about reptile keeping much. I sort of been trying to keep in the loop, but you know how quickly these things go. And yeah, so got one royal at home. Started watching YouTube. Started getting on Instagram again.
Mm-hmm.
It snowballed well quickly. So I went from having one, which I got probably in December. By August, I was up to 20. Was breeding, had breeding plans. And yeah, like at the time, it was awesome. And I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't go back and do it again now.
Yeah.
Just like, I never used to have a problem with racks. I don't, to be fair, I think like we were talking on Riddler's podcast last night, but racks have a place, but I don't think racks have a place in the home anymore. I think the technology, the knowledge, all that sort of stuff has advanced so much that unless you're a professional breeder, one, you don't need that many animals. Like there's so many other animals. Go and have some get some other cool stuff. And there's just there's too many. They're overproduced now, and it's taken all the love out of it. To be honest, like when I decided I was going to sell mine, one of the questions was, "Are you going to keep any of them? Like, are there any in particular you don't want to get rid of?" And some of them I'd had for years, and I said, "No, they've all got to go. I can't. I don't see them as like individuals. I see them as the royals."
Yeah.
If I kept, I didn't want to keep one. They either all stayed or they all went, and they all went. And to be honest, although I miss them, I don't miss them that much, and I love the stuff that has sort of taken their place, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good thing, I guess, in the sense of, because again, if that was me, I would not be able to let all them go because
it was hard. It was hard, but I think once I made the decision, like I spoke to my wife about it as well, and like we talked it through, and I said, like it is hard, but at the same time, I've had them for so long. Like not specifically individual animals, but royals as a whole.
Yeah.
And if I sell them all, decide in a year's time that I hate it and I want the royals back, there's like 50,000 royals on Morph Market. It's not difficult for me to go and get a royal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, like you said, you had like 40 plus royals. I have like what? So about 6 snakes. I say 6 snakes, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Like, I've got a couple of snakes that are moving on. So one of my Brems are moving on to my father because he really wants to get back into Brem keeping again. Cool. So really looking forward to him actually getting back into the hobby again, because it's
definitely
lovely to see it. Yeah, but other than that, what I've got now is what I've got. That's it. Like, I don't see myself maybe a chondro soon, but I've got to sway the missus on that one.
Yeah, it's all right. You got time yet? Time. I'm sure there's a birthday or Christmas or Easter or something around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, my birthday is December, but I think we can have an early one this year.
Yeah, look like the Queen used to have one in the middle of August.
Yeah. So I've noticed on your Instagram you've been doing a lot of build yourself and on YouTube. So yeah, if you want to just go through what you've built and
Yeah, it's more what haven't I built? So everything in my house, apart from the leopard geckos, are in custom built enclosures. So the leopard geckos are in 3 by, what don't know, 3 by 1.5 by 1.5.
yeah,
That sort of standard, very exotic. That's what they're in.
Yeah.
My chameleon is in a 6 foot by 3 foot, so 6 foot tall, 3 foot wide, and it's about 2 foot deep. And it was a bird cage, like a massive parrot cage.
Oh, sick.
I got the angle grinder out, cut the front of it off, and then built like a custom screen door that goes across the whole front of it. So yeah, he's in that. The tortoises, I've just built 2 new tortoise tables. So they were in a tortoise table that I'd built in the first place, but they were living together, and then they started fighting, so I split them, which meant the tortoises didn't have enough room. So it was a 6 foot by, I don't know, 6 foot by 2 foot table, but I had to split it down the middle. So for the last year, they've been in a 3 foot by 2 foot like side each, which, let's face it, it's not great. So I've literally just finished yesterday 2 like bunk bed style tortoise tables, which are 5 foot by 3 foot each. So they've got masses of room now.
Yeah.
Which, just a little self plug, I've vlogged that whole thing as well, so that'll be on my YouTube channel at some point. Because apparently I've started vlogging as well. And then yeah, the monitors that's like the thing that I've been posting about the most, I guess. It's still an ongoing project. So where the racks were in the house, I ripped that whole space out, measured it, and was like, right, I'm going floor to ceiling and filling that gap perfectly. So at the moment, I've got a 5 foot by 3 foot 3 foot AccuViv, and then the 4 by 4 by 3 Gilleneye Viv. But they're built into a framework, and then there's space. I've made space for 3 like glass Xterras, so there's space for a 90 by 45 by 30, a 45 45 45 cube, and a 45 45 60.
Nice.
Yeah, so the 45, the 90 45 30 is going to be a what's the word? Like a cohab build. So I'm going to do dart frogs and morning geckos. I've got morning geckos at the moment, and they'll be going in there eventually. But the plan is to have like a mini water feature of like a weeping wall type thing, and
Nice.
yeah, and then white tree frogs in one of them, and then I've got an empty viv that I don't know what I'm putting in there yet. But building it is like I really, it's stressful. I tell you now, it's really stressful building it, especially like when you measure the glass, order the glass, and then go, is it going to fit when it turns up? But I love building the enclosures. One of my favorite parts of reptile keeping, and back in the day I had fish as well. My favorite thing about fish was setting up the enclosures, like aquascaping in a fish tank, or the reptile enclosures. I like to do like the 3D backgrounds, paint them, carve them, all that sort of stuff, and I absolutely love that. And then putting the substrate, the leaf litter, all the different bits that the reptiles can interact with. That's one of my favorite parts of reptile keeping. I absolutely love it. Building those sort of slices of Australia, for example, and being able to put it in my kitchen.
Yeah.
And then the reason I build the Vivs is because nothing ever off the shelf fits perfectly where you want it. It's never the right size.
Yeah.
And it's a damn sight cheaper. Like I built my 2 monitor Vivs. It cost me like 200 quid all in.
Yeah.
And I got 3 quotes to have them custom built to the size I wanted, and the cheapest one came back at like £800.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Basically, with this 11-foot bib, it's going to cost me like 900 quid.
Yeah, they're so expensive. Don't get me wrong; they take a lot of time, and there's a lot of craftsmanship. And
yeah,
but luckily for me, I for like 5 years I worked as a timber merchant. So, and I'm quite handy anyway. Like I'm in my studio at the moment, which is a 16 foot by 8 foot shed that I built in the summer because I was bored. Like I don't have any, like I'm not qualified or anything, but yeah, I just like doing that sort of thing. And because
I'll give you a call then, yeah.
Yeah, I charge you a lot. I'm more expensive than many other people, but you can call me if you want. But yeah, because I worked at the timber merchants for a long time, like I'm really good friends with my manager still, so he sorts me out. Like the price of the wood I paid for my monitor Vivs, it should have been like £600, and I think I paid 100 quid for it, if that. The most expensive thing that I bought for the monitors was the Luminise.
Yeah, that Luminise is very expensive, but worth it.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
I think about putting Luminize on the tarantula.
Yeah, I don't know if it would. I imagine it would be beneficial. I don't really know.
I mean, she comes out at night, so I don't think it'd be worth it. But
Yeah, but you
Luminize.
might find that she comes out sort of in the dawn and the dusk a bit more
Yeah,
as it
they
goes
are.
up and down.
They are classed as crepuscular.
Yeah.
They do a lot of like dawn and dusk hunting.
Then
But
tarantulas don't come out a lot anyway. That's why I think that's one of the reasons I had so many when I had them, is because you get one, it's like, oh, I've got a box of dirt. I'll get
yeah,
another box of dirt. And then if you've got 50, when you walk in the room, you might see one.
yeah, exactly. This is how I had when I had loads more before I moved them on. I had like a whole like shelf of all tarantulas. I'd like have like 10 of them, and like I'd see one.
Yeah.
Or you may see two if you're lucky, but yeah. So you wanted to buy? Say you want to get into frogs and amphibians.
That's my plan. I don't know when it's going to happen. Like, I've got the Vivs already, but I haven't got the spare money to fully commit to doing it yet. But my daughter has been begging me since I said the snakes were going. She's like, "Come and get white tree frogs. Come and get white tree frogs."
Yeah, they are pretty.
I like them. I really like them. I'm not 100% sure yet. Like, I don't know if we're going to get white tree frogs, red-eyed tree frogs, or Amazon milk frogs.
Well, I have 2 of those 3.
There we go. So, and then dart frogs as well. But again, I have no idea what species of dart frog I want. I'm not at that point because I haven't got the money ready and the Vivs aren't ready. I'm not really looking at the animals yet, because otherwise I'll go, oh, there's one. I'm not going to give another chance. I'll buy it, and then it will be in a subpar enclosure.
Yeah,
and I'm in no rush.
So, as this podcast won't come out until after my newest
Oh, you're gonna tell me what your frog is?
Yeah, so I won't get him out because he's a bit fidgety at the moment. But I just acquired a red-eyed, melanistic red-eyed tree frog.
Oh, cool.
So he is. I don't know if you've ever seen one before.
I don't know. I've seen some odd-coloured ones before, but I couldn't tell off the top of my head.
So look, I'll put a picture in there for everyone on the podcast. But it's a purple with yellow feet, red and black.
Cool.
So
that's cool.
It's got melanin, but melanin is more purple than black.
Wow.
So I managed to acquire from my local shop, and when you see something, you think it's not seen very often. So I was like, I'll take it.
yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the things that I'm sort of umming and ahhing about what species I want, because I think once my Vivs that I've got space for are filled, that's it. There's no space for anything else. Yeah. Apart from when the chameleon goes and dies, there'll probably be a tree monitor in that space. But he's 4 at the moment, so I've probably got 3-4 years at least left.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from the tree monitor that might happen eventually, I want to fill the frog. Well, get the dart frogs, get the tree frogs of some description, and then I've got one empty Viv. And then once that's full, it's going to be a closed collection. I'm not adding anything. I'm not planning on breeding. If things breed, they breed, but I'm not planning on breeding anything anymore.
Yeah. I
just want to enjoy the stuff that I've got, and instead of spending money on like me getting new animals, like cramming them into space, I want to spend the extra money that I would spend on new animals, just improving the enclosures for the animals I've already got. Like moving the tortoises over to their new tortoise tables. I moved them in a week ago. So they've had 7 days of just roaming, and it's mad. Like, you can almost see how happy they are in their face. It's really weird. I don't like to anthropomorphize the animals, but you can tell that the tortoises are so much happier having the space, because they were basically had 3 foot by 2 foot each, and now they've got 5 foot by 3 foot each. So it's like well over double what they were in.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm well happy with it.
Yeah, so that's just as well. I've got a couple more things coming, but not just yet. It's within the next year or so. But like you said, as soon as that happens, that's it. The collection's closed. That's how I stay.
Yeah. Like, if you've got a reptile room, it's not too bad, because obviously you've got the space to expand and you can move bits and bobs around. Obviously, Diesel's going to take up a hell of a lot of room when he's fully grown. But like, there's 3 of us, my wife and my youngest daughter. And we've got 3 dogs as well. And we're in like a 2 up, 2 down, so there's not a lot of room.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's reptiles in every single room apart from the bathroom, and I don't like, it's tight. I don't want to squeeze anything else in there. I'd prefer to be, if I'm going to take up the space, I'd prefer to give the animals I've got more space.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
But so with my experience so far with the frogs, I would say that white tree frogs are better than red eyes. Whites are more interactable.
That's what I've heard. Yeah, a lot of people say whites, you see them a lot, and they're sort of on display, whereas red eyes tend to hide away. They don't tolerate being handled very well, and they're a bit more temperamental with temperatures as well.
Yeah, so with the red eyes, I noticed they're very like hands off sort of things. They like to sit under leaves.
Yeah.
So I've got them in their little tanks before, because one's a lot smaller, so one's like that big.
Yeah.
That big. So I'm just waiting for the other one to grow up before I put them together.
Yeah.
But I noticed like when they sit on their leaves, they sit underneath. They like to hide. Whereas the whites, he's out now jumping around and hitting the glass, and he likes to come out.
Which is realistically what you want. I think white tree frogs, from what I understand, obviously I don't have any experience, but I get that they're like the Cresties of the frog world.
Yes, they haven't got a brain cell between them.
Yeah, just like Cresties.
Yeah, they as soon as you offer food on tongs, they like to tongue feed as well. They're very tolerant to tongue feed. They like to try and swallow the tongs with the food as well. So they're pretty cool. And I've hand fed him once, and he tried swallowing my thumb.
Yeah.
That was fun. This doesn't hurt, it's just gums, but it's just
yeah.
They don't like
I think I am leaning towards whites, but I quite like the idea of Amazon milks as well, because they're quite similar in temperament to white tree frogs, but there's something a little bit different. And I don't. It's so I've got obviously the Akis, which are a very popular pet. We've got leopard geckos, which are really popular. The Gillanai I've got, they're not as commonly seen. Like you never see a Gillanai in a pet shop. And the last sort of the frog viv, not the dark frog viv, but the other frog viv, and then the empty 45 cube. I'd quite like to add some animals that aren't like really, really rare, but something that isn't a pet shop animal, if you know what I mean. So I've been looking at I've got the morning geckos at the moment. I love the morning geckos. So I'm thinking possibly another species of dwarf gecko. I've been looking at like the Cameroon day geckos, the little ones, or the Williams Eye, the blue ones.
Yeah.
But there's so many, and some of them are like really small. So I was talking to MJ from MJ's Pythons and Arc Show.
Marv, yeah.
He's got Marv. He's got I think it's the Cameroon day geckos, and he was saying they're so small that the adults are the size of morning gecko babies.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want something that small, because I'm already paranoid that the morning geckos are going to escape at some point.
Yeah, that's what my morning gecko with all the seams, because they started laying eggs in there now. So all the seams are now taped. Everything's taped. They get opened once a day, get sprayed down, and then the pasture gets done every day, and then flies every couple of days. But every vent, every tiny hole has been sealed.
Yeah. See, I haven't taped it. I'm winging it. Like the only bit I've done. So yours are an Exeter, I presume.
Yeah, 30.
So mine are an Exeter. They're in a 30 45.
Yeah, same.
So I was reading online, and people were like, they silicone the front gap between the doors and then run a blade down it. Like they silicone all the way around the roof. So all I've done, I watched a video. I can't remember what the name of the bloke was on YouTube. It might have been, I can't remember. What was his name? Don't know. He does a lot of frog stuff. He's American or Canadian, one of the two. And he sells, I can't remember, he sells lots of bioactive stuff. I'm sure someone will know who I'm talking about. But he's on the video, and on the Exeter, all he did to like morning gecko proof it was on the lid, you know where the two slidey tabs are for the cables. So in between that, there's a cutout on the lid where the slidey bits slide into. And they get in there, and then they can get out. So I've just filled that gap with Blue Tack because it's not sticky, but it's really easy to remove it if I need to remove it. And so they've been in there 4 months so far, and 2 of them were really small when they went in there, and they're all 4 are still in there. So I'm hoping they won't get out.
Well, I've just gorilla taped all the vents.
Yeah.
So I didn't have time. I was going to silicone it, but I just decided to put gorilla tape over it for now.
Yeah, I think the only reason people do the vents at the front is because the fruit flies get out of it, and that's another reason. But I'm not that fast. If there's a few fruit flies knocking about, there's a few fruit flies. It looks nicer, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know. So you said you wanted to keep Williams Eye, things like that.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I was going back. So you said you didn't see. Excuse me, guys, I'm really tired. The pygmy mulga monitors not being readily available in shops.
Yeah.
I did see one actually, and it was in Birmingham Reptiles, I think it was.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I've ever seen one.
Yeah, so I've seen them once. I saw them very briefly at Global Geckos. But like it's not something that's like a common animal. Like you quite often see Akis in reptile shops.
Yeah.
Like when I saw the Gilleneye in Global Geckos, I sort of went, "Oh, that's cool," and then moved on to the next thing because they had like Fiji banded iguanas and green tree pythons, and I was looking at all sorts of other stuff, and I didn't really hold my attention that much at the time. And then speaking to Paul, and I went round his house and had a look at some of his stuff because I said like I think I want a monitor, but I never had any sort of hands-on. So he invited me around very kindly, and I had a sort of afternoon, sort of getting to know stuff. And I'm absolutely infatuated by the Gilleneye. My wife and youngest daughter love the Akis. They like the Gilleneye. They love the Akis. I'm the other way around. Like the Akis are really cool. Like they tongue feed, like they're really like very sociable already. The Gilleneye are a little bit more wary. They're not. They don't run away, and one of them is tongue feeding out of the three of them. But I love the Gilleneye. They're just like baby tree. They're like tiny little tree monitors.
Yeah.
And they're so cool. And I think they are getting more and more popular, especially as like Paul's shouting about them and I'm posting about them now, and lots of other people are starting to get them in the hobby as well. But it's not something that I was aware of 5 years ago. I'd never heard of them, and I think they're very quickly going to overtake Akis.
Yeah,
because they're so cool.
Yeah. So with obviously with monitors, like I didn't really. Obviously, I knew what a tree monitor was.
Yeah.
I knew what your Komodo dragon is. I knew your Asian water monitors. But then obviously you dive into the realm of monitor keeping, and you see so many different species. So I did my research. 5 years, pulled the trigger, got a water monitor.
Yeah.
And then you see these other genetic morphs like Exampic, and you see all these lovely like T positive, T negatives, and all this stuff. And then you go into the realms of the Indicus complex, and you go into the tree monitor complex, and it's just like there's so many different things to choose from. It's like Pokemon. It's like
it is mad. I thought when I was learning about monitors was like when you get stuck on when you go down a rabbit hole on TikTok. And you're there, and all of a sudden you've been watching TikTok for 4 hours, and you're watching someone make a souffle. Yeah, I was like that, but monitors. I was like looking at like Akis. Akis have always been one that I wanted. I never had the space to give them a Viv. Well, to be fair, when I was younger, I had the space. I didn't have the money. Like I remember seeing a trio of red Akis with a setup, and it was like $5,500. And when I was like 16, I was like, that's impossible. But yeah, now I've got the space. It's really cool. But I looked at Akis. Spoke to Paul about the Gilleneye, and then like I said at the beginning, I feel like a complete newbie. Like there's so much to learn because I've been so focused on royals and breeding royals and what's hot and what's not in the royal thing and learning about the genes. Like my whole brain shut off and was not learning about all the different species and like taking in anything about any other animals at all. It was all about the royals.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I'm like a kid in a candy shop at the moment. Like everything is new. I'm like, although I have like a basic knowledge of reptiles, like you can say most reptiles, and I'll go, oh, I know what that is, or I know where that's from. I couldn't tell you the husbandry of it. I couldn't tell you what the temperament was like. And now, although I'm not planning on keeping a lot of the animals I'm looking at, because I'm not just constantly like, what's Canova doing? What's hot? What's their gene? What's het for this? What's het for that? I've just taken like a whole chunk of knowledge and gone, I don't need that anymore, and I'm filling it with so much new stuff, and it's really exciting. And I'm like, I'm loving it at the moment. Absolutely loving everything.
Yeah. So like obviously when I acquired Diesel and obviously I never knew the husbandry of a water monitor. You learn every day.
Yeah, definitely.
But all these different animals I have, I'm learning different things every day, and I love it. But I'm starting to learn how to season the water monitor now.
Yeah. And
have learned how to season them properly because I think it's a good thing that us as people we hold captives. That I like to call them captives. Sorry, let's refrain that. Let's say pets and
they are captives. They are captives.
But yeah, like learn how to season them properly, making sure their husbandry needs are kept properly instead of just fucking them in the vivarium, letting them, squander. Really, isn't it?
Exactly, and like I think, although like we've got at home at the moment, we've got 4 leopard geckos, 2 tortoises, three Cresties, Chameleon, and like the Ackies and the Gilleneye and a few bits and bobs as well. But the leopard geckos and the tortoises, when we got the tortoises, they were babies, so I haven't hibernated them yet, but it's something I'm going to look at into next year. And the leopard geckos, like you pop it in a Viv, and they doesn't matter what you do, they're pretty happy.
Yeah.
But like the Chameleon obviously is different. There's a lot of work to get him set up. But when he's set up, it's fine. But learning and speaking to Paul a lot and just learning, like you say, being able to create the different seasons, like with lower temperatures or heavier misting or reduced food, all that sort of thing, is nothing that I've ever had to deal with, because with Royals I was feeding them every 10 days. They get a small rat every 10 days, and it's that. Like, there's nothing else to it. So yeah, it's a big learning curve, and I think because I got the Gilleneye and then the Ackies about a month later, although I had Paul sort of helping me over every single baby step of the way, it was such a big learning curve. The first week I had all of them at home, I was like, have I done something wrong? Should I have done this? Like, so I got 3 Gilleneye and I got 3 Ackies. I've now only got 2 Ackies. I've still got the 3 Gilleneye because the Ackies are fighting. And I was like, I'm panicking. I was texting Paul like every day, like, they're still fighting. What do I do? And he said, you split them up. Like, split them up for a week, see what happens, reintroduce them. If they start carrying on fighting, then you either give one back to him, sell it on, or get another Viv, and then you have 2 Ackie Vivs. And I was there like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, they've got names. I feel really bad. I feel awful. But yeah, I made this like as soon as I separated them, the 2 that remained in the big enclosure, they chilled out. They were tongue feeding almost within the same day. Like, they were sitting next to each other, they were basking together, and it was just unfortunate. So I think what the case was is I got 2 males and a female. And the 2 males were obviously fighting a lot. So one of the males has gone to a friend of mine who lives just on the road. So it doesn't matter. I'm happy that I know where they are there, and the animals that I've got are much happier. I think it was definitely a selfish thing for me going, oh, I've got 3. I really wanted to have 3. But yeah, I've had them since when did I get them? Just after Christmas, I think, or just before Christmas. I can't remember. And then I've been down to 2 since probably 3 weeks after getting them. So that's like 8 weeks now, 9 weeks, and I love them. Like, I don't mind that there's only 2 now. It's a bit weird because they were called Squirtle, Charmander, and Bulbasaur, and now we've only got Charmander and Squirtle. So yeah, but apart from that, it's good. It's good, and I'm infatuated by them. I'm absolutely loving them. Problem I'm having at the moment is I'm trying not to overfeed them, because obviously I want them to be like used to me, and the only way that I really know how to sort of encourage them and like make a bond with them is feeding them. But I'm like, I can't feed them every day. Like, one of the Ackies is a lot braver than the other one, and he is already looking pretty podgy. So I'm like, right, that's it. I'm feeding you. Already they're like, you're not getting fed as much as I want to feed them, because I'll get home and I'm like, oh, they're there. I could just give them a couple of don't feed them.
Yeah, this is the problem I had. So when I first picked up Diesel, he was in my living room, and I was working from home then. So every minute I look down, I'm like, oh, he looks like he's hungry.
Yeah.
Or looks like he wants to come and say hello. So what I'd do is I'd get him out, let him out my arm, he'd sit there for 2 minutes, go back in, and then I'd give him a bit of fish. But like, I know, I was main feeding, and the next time I go, oh, God, have a little bit of fish. Come on, have a little bit of fish.
Yeah.
And now I look at him, and then he's got used to trying to eat all the time, because now he's eating like pieces of salmon like this.
Yeah. He probably eats better than you do.
Yeah, he eats better than me, and yeah, so he eats every 3 days at the moment. 1 day to eat, day to digest, day to and then repeat.
Empty out
the tank, yeah, and then repeat. But it's amazing how much that animal eats compared to everything else in this house.
Yeah, like, I think my Ackies, the Gilleneye not so much. They're a bit more picky. So one of the Gilleneye will tongue feed. The other 2 don't even look at it. They turn away when I try and tongue feed them at the moment. They're funny because so my crickets are in a massive big black box. So I get the big black box out, and all 3 of them pop their heads up. They're like meerkats almost. Like, they're there and they know what's coming. So one of them comes down to like the lowest part of the Viv where I normally tongue feed him, and he's like, straight away he'll come onto my hand now. He'll sit on my hand whilst he eats, which is sick. And the other 2 just sort of sit there. But as soon as I've thrown crickets in, they'll eat. So they know that the food's coming. So it's just a matter of time.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to force them. If they don't want to come to Tongs, they don't come to Tongs. I'm not fussed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is cool to be able to tongue feed them, and so it is what it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
So,
the Akis, I think, will tongue feed. Like, I think they would just eat and eat and eat and eat and eat. Like, I have to stop feeding them because I'm like, you've probably had enough now.
yeah. So this is the thing. So with the insects that he eats, I just let them roam. He forages them himself.
Yeah.
Don't really try tongue feeding bugs because he doesn't get any enjoyment out of things on tongs. He likes hunting things down. With like his fish and all this, like his odd rodent and stuff like that, a tongue feeding to try to get the interaction out of it now early before he gets too big. And then he's started to build a bit better tolerance with me.
Yeah, he does seem pretty chill from what I've seen, to be fair.
Yeah, he has his off days, as any animal does. I can't blame him. Like, I mean, sitting in the box and seeing a 6-foot ogre walk up to the glass every day, I think it's
Like, let's face it, we all have our off days. I don't like people sometimes.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I'd be pissed off if I was led down Sunday with some bloody 6-foot ogre put a phone in my face. Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, so do you have any plans? So you say you want to get tree frogs and like, get some dart frogs. So what sort of dart frogs do you like the look of?
I don't know, right? So I have been looking at dart frogs for months and months and months and months. In fact, I've wanted dart frogs for as long as I can remember, but I've never bitten the bullet because, like, there seems to be at the time there wasn't much information, and then they were a bit pricey, and there was at the time I wanted stuff to interact with, whereas now I'm just as happy, almost like having like a tropical fish tank. Like, you'd stand and you look at it and it's cool. I don't need to touch it.
Yeah.
So I think I'm at that point in my sort of reptile keeping career, so to speak, where I'm sort of ready and like mature enough for them. If you know what I mean? Like, I don't want, like, I think if I was to get them 10 years ago, I'd be trying to get them out all the time and like, oh, look how cool this is. I don't want to do that. I want to get them and just look at them, and that'd be really cool. I'm going to look on my phone because I can't remember the name of the ones that I was looking at off the top of my head.
When you do decide to dive into the world of dart frogs, I got a friend who breeds dart frogs. His name's Sean Baker.
Right. Okay.
Near you, actually. I think he lives in Kent, so I don't know if that's anywhere near you.
It's not that near me, but it's not the ends of the earth.
His handle on Instagram is sb.tropicals.
Oh, I follow him.
Yeah, he's got some wicked stuff.
Okay, so an Ufuga was one of the ones I was looking at.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah.
But it's always the case. The ones that I really like, excuse me, are either really expensive or they're just not available at all. So the other ones that I really like that I can't get are Atalopus barbatoni, right? So they look like, I don't know if you better see it. Let's have a go. So
yeah, so
they look like this.
Aren't they? Are they frogs? Or I thought they were classed
as
toad.
They might be classed as a toad, but
I think harlequin toads. Yeah,
that's what they are. They're really, really cool. But if you can find them, fair play, because I have been looking for months and they don't exist. But they're also really difficult to keep because they have to have running water in a specific depth, like a stream, all the time in the enclosure. So it's just something that is never going to happen. Like, it's not something that I can do. So I'm not really sure. I don't want, although I like you've got the blue ones. I can't remember the name of.
Dendrobates tinctorius aureus.
Yeah, so those the black and green ones and the bumblebee ones. They are like the main three that you. And although don't get me wrong, they're really, really cool. I don't want those. I want ones that are a bit different, or something like if you go into like a specialist reptile shop, you'll see, like you say, the blue ones, the green ones, bumblebee ones, and maybe the tricolored ones as well.
Yeah, about the I think there's something Anthony in it.
I don't know. I'm rubbish with the scientific names, to be honest.
Oh, fucking hell. Excuse my French.
They've got like orange feet.
Yeah.
Those. But I don't want those ones. I want something that you don't see very often, which it makes it harder because they're not seen very often because they're not readily available, which makes them more expensive and just harder to find in general. and probably makes them a bit more difficult to get the husbandry right as well. Because if they're not breeding readily, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, of course.
But it's I'm not sure. And obviously, because I'm planning on cohabiting them with the morning geckos as well, that's a whole extra thing that I've got to take into account. So that it's a lot of planning. It's not something I've ever done before cohab wise. Like I've kept animals like I keep my cresties as a trio. Obviously the Gillini and the Akis are together. But that's it. I kept the tortoises together for a while and they got split up because they were fighting. And obviously the morning geckos live together as well. But I've never kept different species together. I know a lot of people do dart frogs and morning geckos, and it is doable. Obviously, there's a lot of risks involved, and there's a lot of learning to be done. So I'm not rushing into it, and I want to make sure I've got everything spot on. Because at the end of the day, I don't want any of the animals to suffer. I want them to all sort of live in harmony. So there's a lot of planning that goes into it. But yeah, there's plenty of time. I'm not rushing into anything. I don't even know if it will happen this year. I might get the Viv done this year, hopefully, because I love doing that bit.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of planning into that as well.
Yes. Frogs I'm looking to get into. I want to get some more dart frogs for sure. I'm looking to get into the philibates.
Yeah.
The bigger, bolder dart frogs.
Yeah.
The mints and the yellows.
Yep.
Tricolours. Maybe some. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm just going to go peacock denture baits because
I don't know what you mean.
Don't want to butcher the name for all the frog fans out there.
Yeah.
I want to get once I get everything sorted and back to normal. Because at the moment the reptile room is a bit of a jumble.
Yeah.
I want to get a rack system put where that's exactly where his desk is. I want to put some frogs and that in there. A frog wall,
like a metal shelving unit with exercises on it or whatever.
Yeah, get some different species of dart frogs. Because the room's warm enough for humidity, so it's perfect.
Yeah, that's my worry. I'm definitely not doing anything until after the summer because the space that I've got, where the animals will go, where the frogs will go, is in between the Akis and the Gillini. I need to see what the temperatures peak at in the summer because at the moment, the bottom of the tank is like 26, 27 degrees because it's above the heat lamp from the Akis.
Yeah.
I don't want it to overheat too much. So I've got to see where it gets to in the summer with nothing in it. Obviously, having some substrate, although it will retain the heat, it will sort of give it a bit of not protection, but it will cool it down a little bit. So I've got to work it out. And then obviously there will be a water feature in there as well. So again, it's a refuge for them. But I need to sit down and work it all out. And I'm not there yet. I'm at the moment. I'm in the process of upgrading everything. Like my leopard geckos have all just had lighting upgrades, and obviously my tortoises have had upgrades as well. So there's plenty going on, and I prefer all the animals that I've got to be in where I can get them before I start spending money on other stuff.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, with the dart frogs I got downstairs, they're on top of the birdie.
Yeah.
And with the halogen light underneath in the birdie tank, between I don't know what is it, the melon board, whatever it is.
Yeah.
The board. Between that and then the bottom of the Exoterra and then that much up to the land point, it brings the humidity up perfectly throughout the day.
Yeah.
Still yet to see what the summer is like. And prior to moving down to the other end of the Viv on top of it.
Yeah.
But it's a learning curve. I am about to do a big build with the dart frogs and the morning geckos because I want to keep that one as a nursery for the eggs.
Okay, yeah.
So I want to build, I think it's a 60 by 45 by 90 tall.
Yeah.
It's what the Cresty was in before. And
that would be massive for morning geckos. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to have the 4 morning geckos in there with the dart frogs. I'm going to get a few more dart frogs and then let them cohab, a big waterfall and all that jazz. But that's in the future, not right now. Probably June time when I got a bit more money in my pocket. But yeah, it's a pain. But like I said, for now, there's a few things I've already arranged that's coming.
Yeah.
But other than that,
you can tell me what they are off air, mate.
Yeah. But yeah, I want to upgrade what I've got now into bigger Vivs, and we move from there pretty much.
It's just a never ending, isn't it? You upgrade it all, and then the one that you first upgraded, by the time you've upgraded the rest of them, that one needs upgrading again.
Yeah. And this is why I say always do your research before you go buy something. Definitely, like you're doing that quite well actually. So
Yeah, I'm definitely taking my time. I think over the last, I don't know how old am I, so like 17, 18 years of reptile keeping on and off.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of impulse buying, and this is the first time where I haven't impulse bought. Like I was thinking about monitors in September, and I didn't pull the trigger till December. Once I had everything built, and I'd done enough research that I could bring them home and was happy. Now I'm still learning every day, but it's definitely like I know I've wanted frogs for ages. I'm 31. I've been waiting 17 years. I can wait another 2 until
Yeah,
I'm happy and I've got exactly what I want.
yeah, of course. That's like I got to learn to say no sometimes.
It's part of the fun though. I think with reptiles. Unfortunately, they can be a bit throwaway animals sometimes. Like you get them, they have them for 6 months. You decide they're not for you.
Mhm.
But the only way of learning and finding out that they're not for you is by getting them, really.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, it's one of those things.
Like that's a good point actually. So like I've had a few animals which I've had to move on. So we start. I had the Nile monitor first because I wanted a monitor. It was cheap.
Yeah, they are cheap. There's a reason they're cheap.
That is the reason they're cheap. They're readily available. You see them all the time. I bought one, and if I would have put the more time and effort into it, I reckon it would have been, you know, what's the word? More trusting.
Yeah.
But because I didn't have the time at the time I was working in a hospital, I was doing 12-hour days, 6 days a week. I never had the time for it.
Yeah.
So I thought, do you know what? It needs a better home. Now it's in a home. It's now more. I went and seen it the other day, and it's actually very more tolerant of people. I went loads of it, fed it. You know, it's interactable. So it just goes to show you don't have to keep these animals if they can have they have a better home. They find a better home and they get better quality of life. With the anaconda, also, she's now more better with people. She gets handled every day because she's got 1-to-1.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what they need sometimes. Especially with a bigger monitor. Like, don't get me. Like, I have no experience with big monitors at all. To be fair, I don't even class myself as really having any experience with any monitors. I've got some, but I'm very, very new. But even I know that a Nile monitor becomes a big lizard, so they need a lot of interaction from like out the egg. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with something that wants to rip your face off.
Yeah, but I can say the same. Really, I'm not a pro monitor keeper. Like I've had this monitor now 5 months.
Yeah,
and every day is a lesson.
It's definitely. I like. Obviously, we've been chatting for a long time now. And you kept being on the podcast, and I like to say we're pretty good friends now. Like seeing what you're posting, you can almost like see the daily improvements. If you know what I mean. It's just like you say, through putting time and effort in.
Yeah, and this is what I say to a lot of people. Like I have lots of messages come through saying, "Oh, I'd love one of them. Oh, I'd love to keep an animal like that. He looks so chill." And I'm like, the work I've had to put in with this lizard. And you may see a video every week or so of an update, but those other 6 days are hell because one, he's either, the other day I accidentally I was cleaning the water bowl out, forgot to shut the door, and he's behind me in the bathroom. Yeah, and I'm like, oh, I move, he's going to run away. So I had to put the bowl down on the bath and then bring him back in gently.
On the plus side, he's quite big, so it's not that difficult to lose. Like the Akis at the moment, so the Viv's on ground level, and if they wanted to, they could get out the front. So I'm paranoid that I'm like going to turn around or blink, or I'm looking at one and the other one's going to leg it. And because they're this big at the moment, like they'll go under the oven or or the dog will get them or something. And it's like, I love them, but it's quite stressful keeping them. I like them though.
Yeah,
they keep me on my toes.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, again, you could say people that keep animals like royals, they draw once a week, feed them, put it back in.
Yeah, exactly.
With my snakes, they get fed once a week. I'm I'm mostly hands off with most of the snakes because, simply my missus does all my girlfriend. Sorry, I shouldn't say missus. My girlfriend does most of the snake interactions. She feeds. Well, I feed the snakes, but she gets them out, handles them, makes sure.
Yeah. How's the new one doing? The Diamond Python.
Not new ones, just one at the moment.
So there was two. There was Diamond Python, and there was what was the other one you mentioned on the last video?
Oh,
Mandarin rat snake as well.
Yeah, Rodney, my rat snake.
Yeah,
really well, mate. with the diamond python, he's doing really well. Had his first shed here, clean, full shed, which I like to add, and I'm really proud of that. The rat snake, I'm still learning about. Like he likes to do his thing where he does his thing. He S's up and he's shaking his tail.
Yeah.
Never knew about that behaviour from a colubrid.
Yeah, I've had a couple of angry corn snakes, like full grown corn snakes that do that. They can actually, like, everyone thinks a corn snake's pretty. It's just a corn snake, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I've had a few in like over the years where they will like S up half of their body, and they're like half the snake is reared up, mouth open, and yeah, quite intimidating to be fair.
Yeah, so I went to feed him the other day, and I noticed that he was going to shed. So after what happened, so I had the mouse there, and he's decided to choose violence, and he's gone up into an S, and he's rattling his tail against the side of the Viv, and I'm thinking, holy crap, like, you know what I mean? Like,
what am I for?
I don't. Yeah, he wants war, and I'm thinking, okay, I shut the glass, leave her alone. But it's because he was going into shade, you couldn't really see. So
yeah,
I learn things every day. The rat snake was kind of like I don't know, it's like a spur of the moment thing. I seen it there, and my missus liked it. So I like to learn about new animals. And then, like I said, that is now collection closed until the next few things turn up. But yeah. So I'm gonna start wrapping this up now.
Yeah.
So do you have any questions for me before I wrap it up?
No, man. I've enjoyed the chat. I think we're all good.
Yeah. So my last question is, what is your advice? One piece of advice for a new keeper coming into the hobby?
Don't buy everything that you see in the shop. It's really hard, but it's so easy to go into a reptile shop, especially once you've got one and the floodgates are open. Like, you buy a leopard gecko and then you nip in and you're like, oh, I can do that. I'll get another one, or I'll get a beardy. There's not much difference. Or I'll get a snake and then I've got another one and another one, another one, and then you either end up with loads of animals that you don't really know what you're doing with, or you end up with loads of animals that actually you don't really like that much. So I think my advice would be, in one sentence, I guess, do your research a lot, and then once you've thought you've done your research, maybe give it a month, and then do some more research.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can, try and find, this isn't a sentence, but this is it anyway. And then maybe see if you can find someone locally that has some of the animals that you're interested in, and have a word with them and learn a bit, like hands-on possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and enjoy it.
So basically,
reptile keeper's awesome.
In one sentence, just don't catch the Pokemon syndrome.
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for coming on, Ben.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
So I'll just hang around. I'll speak to you after.
Yeah, no worries.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, dude.
Thank you for listening to the episode 3 of the Reptile Chronicles podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider giving a like, comment, and subscribing to the channel. I've been Ken, and thank you for listening.